Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, O'Neill, and today my guest is the one and only Roxanne Francis, someone I've known for a very long time. I'll allow her to really introduce herself and her credentials, but I've been waiting and hoping and anticipating this moment to actually have a sit-down conversation with her and talk about a couple of things. There's just so many things that I would like to ask her about, but today we're really going to be focusing on toxicity in the workplace and what does that look like, and just addressing some of those trends and concerns. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to
Yeah.
be here.
Okay. Well, like I said earlier, I'm excited to have you here. I know that we know each other, so I'm going to try and be as professional as I possibly can. But off air, we were already having a conversation about so many things,
Yes.
particularly about this topic.
Mhm.
And before we really delve deep into it, I just want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what is it that you do, your company that you have, your specialty, your psychotherapist.
Mhm.
And if you could just kind of introduce us a little bit more about your background
Yeah.
and what you're about.
Yeah. So, at the heart of it all, I am a girl from Jamaica with a dream in Canada.
Okay, no. Yes. Big up
I,
Jamaica.
all the time. I am a psychotherapist. My education and background is in social work. So I'm a registered social worker. I have a psychotherapy practice. I run a private practice with a team of sometimes 10, but sometimes 13, depending on whether or not we have students. We see all kinds of clients throughout walks of life: children, youth, couples, adults, seniors. We help people navigate all kinds of mental health and relational and stressful issues. And what else can I say? I consult to organizations on mental health at work, race at work, and I talk to different organizations and community groups about women's issues and parenting as well. I support therapists who are new to the field, and from time to time, I consult to different media outlets on mental health related issues.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you. I made a comment because I've seen you on TV. And then you responded back. I mean, we've always been in contact.
Yes.
But if I'm being quite honest, it was just so nice and just so proud of you to see what you've been doing and doing what you really love and your
Yes.
passion.
Yes.
And it was awesome to see you.
Thank you.
And then you responded. We had little jokes here and there,
Yes.
but it was
Good
nice.
jokes. Good jokes.
Yeah. So, what's the name of your organization or company?
Yes. Sorry, we are Francis Psychotherapy.
Okay. And so I know a lot of people ask, what's the difference between a psychotherapist, psychologist, a psychiatrist, and why would I want to go to someone that practices psychotherapy?
Yes, that is a very popular question. So psychotherapists and by extension as well social workers have the opportunity to provide mental health counseling to individuals. So we basically do what we call talk therapy. That is where you don't necessarily have to lay on the couch, but that is where you come into the office and you take a seat, you tell us what's going on, and we give you perspective or tools to handle the things that are causing discomfort, stress, or distress in your life. Now, when it comes to the other psych-related fields, a psychiatrist is a medical doctor, basically. They had to go to medical school, and they are able to assess and diagnose. When someone comes to see me, I cannot diagnose. I can do somewhat of an assessment, and based on my experience in the field, I can probably make an intelligent guess to say, well, your symptoms are consistent with what I've seen with this disorder or that situation, but I don't have the credentials to diagnose. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor. They can diagnose and they can write a prescription. So they will be able to say, you have bipolar disorder. This is what I'm prescribing based on, what you've told me. A psychologist is almost like a nice blend between psychiatry and psychotherapy. So a psychologist can provide talk therapy, and a psychologist can also diagnose, but they cannot prescribe. They have a PhD, but they're not a medical doctor.
Right.
So they can't write a prescription for you. And they can see you for an hour, 2 hours if they're ready, if they're doing an assessment.
Mm-hmm.
A psychologist is someone that you'll want to go to if you or your child you have concerns about ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you wonder about autism. A psychologist will be able to assess and provide a full report for you. This comes in very handy for parents if you want to take the report to the school and get specific supports for your child in school based on this report, because this report will tell the administrators this is how your child learns best.
Right.
Right. So that's very handy. A psychiatrist, I will add, is not going to see you for like an hour and a half. They're like a doctor: in, assess, out, prescription in hand, right? And then you might go back to them maybe every 6 months and they will reassess. How are things going? Do you need a change in the prescription? Is this prescription working for you? So on and so forth. Psychotherapist cannot diagnose, cannot write prescription. Psychologist can assess and can diagnose, no prescription. And they will provide counseling as well. Psychiatrist, no counseling,
Mm-hmm.
diagnose and prescribe.
There's quite a bit of difference between everybody.
Yeah.
So why would someone want to see you, for example, or what would be the benefit? I'm sure they're all beneficial, but particularly with what you do and what you specialize in, what would be the benefit for them coming to you?
The benefit is perspective. The benefit is with the what's the word I'm looking for? With the experience that we have, we are able to put two and two together, so to speak, right? So for example, someone might come in and say, I'm really scared. I got mad at my girlfriend the other night and I almost hit her. I don't want to be this angry person, but I get really, really angry and I don't know where this anger is coming from. Can you help me reduce my anger, right? My job is to now talk to you about, some clients hate this, but my job is to now talk to you about your background, because I want to know where this anger is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can give you the Band-Aid, I can give you the strategies, but until we figure out where this is coming from, where this wound began, then giving you the Band-Aid tools or strategies doesn't mean that you're not going to hit her again, try to hit her next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to prevent the anger from coming up.
Right.
Sometimes anger comes from a place of hurt or disappointment. And so if we're able to discover that maybe your father was never available for you, or he used to hit your mom and that made you really scared, and these are some things that are coming up for you, then we can start talking about healing some of those pieces. And oftentimes people they don't have the experience or the clinical guidance or know how to be able to marry what happened when you were 10 years old to what's happening when you're 45.
Mm-hmm.
But we can do that.
Right. Okay. So in terms of when people come to see you, what are the common issues? Like, what do you see a lot of? I'm sure there's a spectrum of a bunch of things that people come for your support and help. But what are some key things? And I don't want to use the word trending, but what are you seeing a lot, people are coming in for help with?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of stress from work.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of mental health challenges that they're trying to hide when they're at work.
Yes.
A lot of men come in for living up to the societal standards of what a man is supposed to be.
Oh, interesting. Specifically, the men. Okay.
Yep. A lot
I
of
know
men are
there's
coming
always
into therapy now.
men coming to therapy has always been something that I knew there are men that go to therapy, but I know that out of all the groups and the demographics that males sometimes are a little bit more hesitant to come. But I'm glad to hear that.
I'll tell you something that you might find alarming. As our practice started to grow, we were women offering therapy. And I would say maybe about 10 to 15% of our clientele would be men or women bringing in their sons quite reluctantly, sons coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I hired a male clinician who is someone who is very community-based, his ear to the ground. His calendar, when I say it is full, and he doesn't only work with men, but all the men are coming to see him. They're coming out of the woodwork. They're calling us and asking for him by name. They're calling us and saying the social worker at the hospital told us to call and ask for him. They're coming in with their 17-year-olds. They're coming in with their 21-year-olds. The wives are sending their husbands. The husbands are coming in saying, I'm afraid my wife is going to leave me. You got to help me. Like all of these men have issues. And it's so interesting
Yes, we do.
because
Lots.
as soon as we had a male clinician, they started to come like clockwork. And I'm very happy to see it.
That's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's been sometimes with our ego and pride, we don't want to,
Yep.
we don't need help.
Yep.
But I heard this from someone else too, saying the same thing, that they're seeing an incline in men coming, looking and searching for some support and help.
Yeah.
That's really good news.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And, you mentioned, which is a great segue into what we're going to be talking about. You discussed about a lot of people coming in to you or your company to speak about what's happening in the workplace.
It's huge.
And so, I want to spend some time talking about that.
Yeah.
And so what does that look like? Like when you talk about a toxic workplace,
Yeah.
an environment where people don't want to go to work or they feel ill just going to work. And as a manager, I see that happen. I've had people in my office crying and just feeling ill
Yes.
at work or coming to work.
Yes.
And I want to know a little bit more, if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that. Like what are people coming with and what are the causes of some of this?
So sometimes people will say, work is very stressful for me, or I struggle with going into work. I hear a lot of different stories, but what is often common is people saying, I look forward to Friday. I mean, who doesn't look forward to Friday? But the flip side of it is on Sunday at like 4:30, they start to feel ill, right? I have people telling me that they start to get panic attacks at 6:00 on Sunday evenings because they know work is tomorrow morning. And so we start talking about what is the source of stress? What is happening at work? It's not because people don't want to work. People are responsible. They know they have to pay their bills. Some people are looking for someone to take care of them, but most people, most people want to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they want to work in an environment that feels comfortable. No one wants to be micromanaged. No one wants to be bullied at work.
Mm-hmm.
And in this day and age, it still happens. No one wants to be yelled at work. And in this day and age, it still happens. No one wants to feel like they can't take their lunch break. No one wants to feel like they're constantly doing the job of 10 people and are constantly being asked to produce more, right? There's only so much that you can do. And, sometimes the jobs compensate you fairly and sometimes they don't. And what I have found, particularly now, is that, we lived through a global pandemic 6 years ago. And during that season, it gave people a lot of room to think about how they want to live, how they want to exist as it relates to work, right? There was a lot of rat race living happening, right? And during the pandemic, we had nothing but time to sit at home, hopefully with people that you love, and think about life, right? And as people started to reevaluate their lives, like people were dropping like flies, unfortunately, during this pandemic. And it really had people think about what is truly important, what's really important for me. And do I want to work like this, right? Some people had the luxury or the privilege of leaving their jobs or going somewhere else or starting some consulting work. But many people had to go back to their jobs. And in going back to their jobs, they realize this work is actually making me sick. This is, sometimes when I talk to people, I will say to them, what is your body trying to tell you? Right? It might seem like psychobabble, but like really, when you sit and listen, I literally said this to a client a few weeks ago. She was on stress leave, and we'll talk about that in a second, but she was getting ready to go back to work and she was having a lot of angst and she was rambling a lot in the session. And I said, okay, I'm going to slow you down. Let's just have a quiet moment. I want you to close your eyes and just put your hand on your chest and just take a few deep breaths, because she was like, I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, your body does. Right. And again, it might sound very foo-foo, but I said, close your eyes and put your hand on your chest. And I guided her through a few deep breaths. And I said, what is your body telling you? And she said, my body is telling me that work is making me anxious. And I said, okay. And after we passed that moment, and I said, what are you going to do? And she said, I think I need to ask my director about going back, like reducing my hours down to part-time, because I just need time to process and think and figure out what my next steps were. People are feeling like they must produce constantly. And it's depending on the situation at work, if your job is toxic, if your manager is awful, if there's racism at work, if there's all of this stress, and there's no room for advancement, there's no plan, there's no succession planning at work or anything like that, then it might feel like this job is doing me in.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Right? Some people will say, I can't afford to quit my job. But then you have to ask yourself, can you afford to be on your back in a hospital for 3 months? Right? Because sometimes that's where your job is taking you. I'm never one to say to somebody, quit your job, because I'm not paying their bills. I'm not taking care of their children. But you also have to ask yourself, what is the trade-off? Right?
Trade-off. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you are always giving up one thing for the other. When you say yes to one thing, you have to say no to something else. And if you're constantly saying yes to work, then you might be saying no to your social life. You might be saying no to your intimate partner relationship. You might be saying no to time with your children. And you might be saying no to your health. So you have to ask yourself, is it worth it?
And you're so right, because everything comes at a cost.
Mm-hmm.
And so what are you willing to give up to do this?
Yeah.
And, something that sticks in my mind, and it always will, is that, you're so concerned about everything, and there's so much that you have to manage. And there's so many things on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But when your health is now involved, those things don't seem to matter. The only thing that's on your mind is your health.
Exactly.
And I know people say that all the time, and yes, but the reality is we have to be able to find a way of surviving. And I get all that, but it is so true. And so it's making a decision.
Yeah.
At what cost are you willing to give up your health?
Yeah.
That's all you have at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think that organizations need to pay attention to the people that they're hiring to lead. They need to pay attention to their policies. Like, I've gone into organizations to help them rewrite some HR policy. I'm not an HR leader.
Okay.
But to talk to them about policies, think about the world that we're living in, Anil. Think about losing a direct family member. I'm not talking about two cousins, a cousin twice removed. I'm talking about a direct family member. And your bereavement policy says that you get 12 days. The hell is that?
If that. Mm-hmm.
If that. Right? Like, if I lose my kid or my partner, hang it up. Like,
Yes.
That's it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh my God. People are trying to figure out how they are going to even function, get out of bed. And you want to know, what date are you coming back to work? I had someone years ago that I was working with as a client, and they had a very traumatic incident happen, and they had to take a good 2 months off from work. And they were coming to counseling regularly, coming to therapy, getting support, getting through the trauma process, getting through the grieving process, but still having to get their doctor and me fill out all kinds of insurance and HR paperwork. And I get it. Those things need to happen. But then the insurance company was now calling me, asking me, what date are they returning to work? And they want to know, when is therapy going to do what it's supposed to do so they can go back to work? And
when therapy is supposed to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, basically. That wasn't their language. But
I know. Yeah, you're paraphrasing, but
I'm not a magician. I cannot say to the client, okay, do 12 somersaults and you're going to be good. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
If your mind is not well, we're still trying to figure out the intricacies of the mind, right? If your mind is not well, it is going to take time. And that might not be the answer that the vice presidents want to hear or the CEO wants to hear. But at the end of the day, we're human beings.
And so are they.
We're not AI. Thank you.
And
so are they.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they want to hear that?
because it's capitalism, right?
Mhm.
Bottom line. But what they don't realize is that the more you take care of your people, the more that's going to pad your bottom line, right? The more you take care of your people, the more your people are going to want to work through lunch to finish that project, to get across the finish line, to take care of the work, to do the thing. The more people feel settled and cared for and valued at work, the more work they're willing to do for you, the less they're going to want to leave, the more loyal they will be. That is going to pad your bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a time where I saw a trend where the whole servant leadership and leadership circles and things like that were you know being on the forefront of leadership and how you should manage. And honestly, after the pandemic, I am seeing a shift now, and I don't know if it's ever going to shift back that way or what's trending, but the need or the value in caring for your staff or caring for your people, your resources, or whoever works for you, um, that used to be important, or we were seeing that trend
Yep.
where it was important, but
Yep.
now not so much. I don't know if people are feeling that, people are replaceable easily. I don't know what started all that again or what caused that to happen.
I wish I could tell you what started it. I just know I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the results of it in many of my clients. A lot of, what I can tell you, what just came to mind is that I have a number of women on my caseload right now who are on stress leave from work, right? And they're not resting. You know what they're doing? They're taking this one to ballet. They are taking this one to their doctor's office. All the things that were piling up at home while they were at work, they're taking care of it now. They're taking things to the dry cleaners. They're making dinner. They're cooking. They're cleaning house. They're rearranging the garage. Not because they're looking for things to do, but these things were falling by the wayside because they were at work. So now that they're on stress leave, when they should be resting, they're at home like getting all the things done. And by the time all of that is done and it's time for them to rest, the time has run out. It's time for them to go back to work, and they're still not ready.
And just to be devil's advocate, because I totally hear what you're saying, but some would argue, well, is that the responsibility of the workplace
No.
or the employer?
You're right.
To make sure that there is space and time for them to do this. At the end of the day, as an organization, we're in this to make money.
You're right.
And we're in this to serve people, and our bottom line is our bottom line. And unfortunately, you're just a cog sometimes in a wheel. Like, if you're not doing it, we'll get someone else to do it.
You're right. It is not that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and so that type of mentality. But I mean, I don't agree with that mentality. However, as an organization, they would argue, well, tough.
Yeah. It's not the organization's fault. It is our society's fault for thinking that this job above everything else, like that is life, right? It is not life. People have children. People have aging parents. People have, chronic illness. People have housing problems, right? Like outside of work, people actually live a life. And it is not, it's not practical or sustainable. And I think what we're bucking up on is a sustainability piece, sustainability problem. It's not sustainable to expect people to go to work from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6:30 or 9 to 7:30 or however long you want people to work and think that they will just figure out the rest of their life, right? People need flexibility. People need flexibility. I can tell you that the moment in my mind when I decided that my full-time job was on its last legs was because I've told this story on a few occasions before. When my youngest was a toddler, I was getting ready for work one morning. My husband had already left to go to work, and I was getting my toddler ready for daycare. And he slipped and landed on his shoulder and started screaming bloody murder and wouldn't let me touch it. And I thought, oh, this is not a normal scream. So On the way to urgent care, I called daycare, told them that we were going to be late, and left a message for my manager. Told him that I was going to be late. Took my kid to urgent care. Doctor looked at it, child still screaming bloody murder, and said, off to x-ray you go. And I'm in x-ray, and my manager calls quite angrily and said, when are you getting into the office? And the child is screaming in the background. And I explained what had happened, and he said, well, we're going to have to reschedule your 9 o'clock. And I'm like, well, reschedule the 9 o'clock. But he was not happy. And we went into x-ray. In the tussle to get him in the x-ray, whatever dislocated had popped back in somehow. We did the x-ray, looked like it was fine. The doctor did his assessment, said what was happening. And I said, can I still take him to daycare? Because here I am now sweating bullets thinking I'm going to have to go to work. I can't go home now with him. And the doctor said, yes, you can take him to daycare, but just tell him to be careful with this. So took him off to childcare, went to my office, and my manager was like, you're going to have to make up this time over lunch.
Wow. Not even
how's your kid? Nothing. And I got back to my desk and I was like, I can't do this long term.
Right.
Not under this leader. They say people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad managers.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right. And so we really have to think about the flexibility. How are people how are they managing their real life while they're trying to put food on the table?
Yeah. It's funny. I always wanted to know, or I would like to find a person that said that you have to work 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 9,
right?
5 days, but only 2 days off.
Only 2 days off.
Like whose brainchild is this that, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But that's unfortunate. Like after all that, you still had to go into work. And that's one thing. You're back at work. But the insensitivity.
Yes.
Of your manager.
Yeah.
Not even making sure that you're okay. And
yeah.
My concern would be then, well, you do see people.
That's it.
And so
that's it.
Look how your manager's treating you.
Exactly.
And the expectations for you to take care
someone
of that might be from a vulnerable population.
Yes.
How are you going to treat them?
Exactly. And so the lack of care, the lack of concern, the insistence on inflexibility, when people live messy, inflexible lives,
okay,
right?
Yes.
Something has to give.
Yeah.
Right? And so if the job isn't giving and your life is messy and inflexible, what is going to break is you. Right? And that's what I'm seeing in my office.
Right. You mentioned something about quiet
quitting.
Quiet quitting. What is quiet quitting?
Yes. Quiet quitting is really just another fancy way of saying work to rule, right? It really just is, I am doing the job that you hired me to do within the time that you hired me to do it, and I'm not going to work for a second more, and I'm not even going to water these plants. You're on your own for anything extra. I am going to work to the job description. I'm coming in at 9 o'clock. I am taking my 1 hour lunch away from my desk. And I am leaving at 5 o'clock. I will be with my bag on my shoulder at the elevator. That's it.
And they're not doing anything wrong.
They're not doing anything wrong.
Good for them.
But then you're told that you're not a team player, right? Right? You're not considering the team. You're not going above and beyond. You're not treating me like an above and beyond team member. So forget your above and beyond. I'm out.
Yeah. Wow, going above and beyond.
And it's actually a way of self-preservation, to be honest. Yeah. Sometimes I encourage my clients to do that because otherwise you end up with all this extra work. And when you start to take your tuna sandwich at your desk while you do the work, then people come and look for you at 12:15. And if you're missing, they wonder what's going on, right? No, I'm taking my lunch. Right? And no, I can't respond to your email at 9:45. I'm at my kid's hockey game. I am sorry.
Yeah. So, and sometimes I fell into this trap also because sometimes you're doing this to yourself too as a staff. So we're talking about going above and beyond. And sometimes it's you setting out your own boundaries, knowing when to stop.
Yes.
So understanding that you work 9 to 5, you may work an extra 10 minutes, whatever, just for argument's sake.
Yes.
but you're there an extra 3 hours
Mm-hmm.
because you feel that is necessary, and that might be the pathway for you for advancement,
Mm-hmm.
for them to see how you're dedicated, that you're a team player.
Yes.
But it's also coming, like we said earlier, at
At
a
a
cost.
cost.
So some of this we do to ourselves
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And, part of it is the pressure of the organization saying we need all this
Yes.
done. But
Yes.
sometimes it's you putting that pressure on yourself.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes we put pressure on ourselves to succeed, depending on what your background is, what your culture is, um, what your ethnicity is, right? You know, Sometimes we feel like we have to ascend to the great heights and we must do it at all costs, and not recognizing that the all costs are tremendous. Sometimes that can be at the risk of your marriage, the risk of the relationship with your child, the risk of your physical health, your mental health. Um, is it worth all of that to become VP, director? For some people, it is, right? And that's fine. You get to make your decision, but you have to be aware of that as you are climbing, right? When your child says, "Why are you always on your phone?" Or "You never have time for me," pay attention to that, right? Why is it that if something goes wrong, they always go to the other parent? Because you're never available, right? And so when teenagers get to a certain age and you are finally VP and you're ready to hang out with them now, they don't know you. They don't want to hang out with you. So the dad ends up in therapy. "I don't know what's wrong. My kid won't talk to me." Well, let's talk about the relationship. What has happened? And then they realize with great shock and dismay that they were never available all through elementary school, all through high school. Now your kid is going off to university and they're like, "Don't call me."
Wow, and that's heartbreaking because
It
I'm
is.
sure the intention was never that.
Exactly. The intention is to provide for my family,
Yeah.
but the provision is not just financial, right? Provision is also taking the time. Provision is, you know, 12 o'clock at night, "Can I talk to you?" Provision is, you know, "Someone punched me at school today and I'm calling you at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Can you come down to the school?" Not everybody has the availability to come down to the school in the middle of the daytime. But sometimes you got to risk putting your work aside to letting your child know that you are there for them.
Yeah. And there's two things that you said there that's interesting because it's really putting things at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything that you said just hit home. It's true. Like, you've seen it happen where you're trying to get to that position and you're forgetting about your loved ones and
Yes.
all, and everything at a cost, once again.
Yes.
But part of it is, are people like, what can someone say to an employer? Or can they say, listen, this is too much.
It depends
I
on.
need to do A, B, and C. Can I get, because I think sometimes some employers don't want to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then
They don't.
you're not up to the job. You can't do it. But you're going to have to make that decision, and it becomes at a risk that,
You did.
what's important.
Everybody has a decision to make. So if you are at this position at work, or what you're doing is creating toxicity in your life, you now have to decide, okay, what am I going to do about this? Right? And sometimes we work it through in counseling. And sometimes we talk about what would it look like for you to go and talk to your manager, right? To say, "This workload is too much for me. I need to be available for my child who is struggling with their mental health. I have to start leaving work now at 4 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock. Is there something that we can do? Can I go home at 2 o'clock and then work from home?" Right? But so again, everyone has a choice to make. The manager has a choice to make. The manager can say, "Yeah, let's see what we can do to support that." Or they can say, "No, you need to be at your desk until 5:30 every day." And then they run the risk of the employer saying, "I'm out, deuces." Right? Or, um,
And I think people forget that too,
yeah,
because there's a risk if they say no that you will
yes,
take your talents elsewhere.
elsewhere.
And we talked off air about this, about the whole cost of hiring. And
Yes,
I've been part of that process of
yes,
what it's this revolving door
yes,
and the cost that's
yes,
associated, the retraining and everything. Is it
yes,
worth it? Or is it something that you
exactly.
say, you know what? maybe 1 or 2 days, we can make this work for you
Yep.
and save all the, you help them out, but you're
Yeah.
also putting yourself in a better situation where you don't have to do all this
Mm-hmm.
training and development and all
Yes.
that again in recruitment.
One of the things that I was working with an organization a couple of years ago, and one of the things that I encouraged them to do, and it was quite eye-opening for them. It was a fairly large organization. They had a number of leaders, and they couldn't understand why were they spending so much money on stress leave, right? And the idea was a number of our workers are on stress leave, and I said to them, I'd like for you to pay attention to whose teams are on stress leave all the time.
Oh
Which
boy.
department has the revolving door, right? And it boiled down to one specific department. And at the end of the day, we had to say, what is this leader like? It isn't like, well, it's the help desk, so it's the most stressed out. It wasn't the work.
Okay, I was going to ask that. So it wasn't the
It
work.
was the leader, right?
Right.
The inflexibility, the mild, they called it, bullying, the veiled sexism, the harshness, right? It's my way or the highway. And people were taking the risk with the highway. And they're like, we can't live like this. I'm out. And so they were constantly spending money on recruiting for that department, training for that department. And when people leave, if you're supposed to have a team of 10, when 4 people leave, then 6 people are doing the work of 10. It's creating stress for them. And they're waiting for you to hire and train. And they're under the weight of all of this work. So they're going to leave too.
And then when you hire these individuals, they got to train these individuals.
Exactly.
So there's more.
And then it takes time for them to come back up to the proper level. All of that costs money.
Yes.
Right?
And you run the risk of stressing more people out.
Exactly.
Like you were saying earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I remember when I was thinking, you and I were talking off air about my decision to leave my full-time job. And I remember I was working for a manager who was not very kind. And as I told the story, and at the time I started working, I started working in private practice part-time while I was working full-time. And it came to this point of making a decision as to whether or not I should leave or stay. And I remember going to speak to someone further up the chain of command because I thought to myself, I just need some time from work. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to ask either to bring my hours down to part-time or to take a leave of absence. And I remember talking to my husband and saying, what if they say no? And he said, well, if they say no, then you know what your choice is. And so I went to that person at the top of the chain of command and I said, okay, my questions are, can I bring my job down to part-time? And they said, we only have full-time employees in your role. There's no part-time option. And I said, okay, well, I'd like to take a leave of absence, not like a sick leave, because I had already taken 2 stress leaves, right? But I need to take a leave of absence. And they said, we're not in a position to offer that at the moment. And so I went home and I spoke to the Lord.
Yes.
And I wrote my letter of resignation, right? Because you're not going to stress me out. You're not going to kill me here, right? I had to choose myself and my family, right? And at the end of the day, honestly, it was their loss because I am fire.
Yes. Yes, you are. And sometimes that's what it takes,
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And it's like you're meeting your full potential now.
Yes.
And if you would have stayed there, who knows what may have happened there, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes these things are a blessing. But
Mhm.
the mere fact that, you're brave enough to approach, because not a lot of people will approach and say, I need some time, this is happening. And what I find very unsettling is how people, managers, organizations sometimes respond to that.
Mhm.
Looking at the person as being weaker, or they, you just can't handle it. How do you expect to have more responsibilities and move up the chain if you can't even manage what you're doing right now? And it's unfortunate because sometimes it could be an acute situation where
Right.
people need that time. And, sometimes They just need a little bit of support. There's things that happen in people's life that may take a little bit longer,
Yes.
but they just need that support.
Yes. It's unfortunate that managers look at it like that, because I look at it from a sense of awareness of your capacity, right?
Okay. I
This
like
is
that.
a strength. Someone comes to you and says, I cannot take this anymore. It is them being in tune with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing you want is for someone to pass out on the job. That becomes a liability issue.
Yes.
You don't want that on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for someone to say, this is happening to me, and I know that it's the job that's causing it, I need a break. It is not a weakness issue. This is actually a strength. I know what I'm dealing with, and I know if I keep going at this pace, at this rate, with this inflexibility, I am going to crack, and I cannot afford to crack.
Wow. I like how you phrase that.
Mm-hmm.
It is a strength
Mm-hmm.
to recognize your capacity. Wow.
Mm.
So, wow, there's a lot to unpack and think about.
I told you
there.
I was fired.
Fire from Jamaica. Okay. So, what kind of advice would you give someone to recognize that you're burning out, or you're on the edge of burning out because of a toxic work environment? What kind of advice would you give them in order to remedy, like try and heal it or fix it?
Yep.
Like that might be safe, so
Yes.
that they're not really putting their career on the line or
Yes.
at risk.
Yes.
Because the reality of it is sometimes when you say something, you can be putting yourself at risk. But what kind of things can people do to recognize that, whether it be boundaries, or what would you suggest?
Mm-hmm. So in terms of recognizing the burnout, or?
Yeah, recognizing before you get to the
Yes,
burnout,
yes.
for one. And
So-
then,
I would start by saying the fact that you're asking the question, or the fact that you are thinking about work being uncomfortable, that's sign number one, right? Ask yourself, what was it like when you started this job, right?
Mm.
When things were good. At some point, things were
Oh.
good.
Mhm.
What were you like? What were you like?
Great question.
Did you hang out with your friends? Did you have a hobby? Did you spend time with your family? Did you invite your mom over on Sunday afternoons? What was your life like? And what is it like now? Right? What's your health like now? What did it used to be then? Is your doctor talking to you about pre-diabetes, your high blood pressure? Are you? I'm sorry.
Don't get me started. But yes,
Right?
you don't want those conversations.
We don't want those conversations.
But they happen sometimes.
But
yeah.
and it might not all be the job.
Yeah.
Right? But if everything else is the same or similar, then it might be the job. Right? It might be the stress. High cortisol in your body can do all kinds of shenanigans, right? High cortisol, high blood pressure. High cortisol, insulin resistance, high blood sugar. High cortisol, you're eating, your appetite changes, more salty foods, more sweets, right? Yes, sir.
I
Right?
didn't know that one. But okay.
Yes.
We
So
need to talk. That's a whole different topic I'd like to talk about. But
I
go
am not
ahead.
a medical doctor.
Yeah.
Please go call your doctor and ask for medical advice.
Mhm.
But these are the things that I have seen. And so you want to ask yourself, what has changed, right? What am I like on a Sunday afternoon when I think about work tomorrow? I have clients who are crying in the shower on Sunday night, right? How has your life changed, right, as it relates to work? Now, once you've realized that work is a problem, right, you now need to say to yourself, okay, what is it that I need, right? As I said to a client literally this morning, if I say this quite often, when a client is trying to figure out what to do as it relates to work, if I took you to the movies and we got our popcorn and settled in, and the featured attraction was a movie of your life, and we got to this stage in the movie, this current stage of your life, what would you be yelling at the main character on the screen? Right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Think about that. Right?
You're deep.
I'm good at my job.
Abstract. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Right? What would you be yelling at the person on the screen? you better go get a side hustle, Sheila. You're going to need to quit in 2 weeks or whatever, however many months, right? Or leave your job now. It's not worth it. Or go to your doctor and get, stress leave, right? Like what would need to happen? And then ask yourself, okay, what can I do to start following some of that advice? Right? So if your manager is someone that you can talk to, then you can say, can I have a meeting? We'd love to chat with you. There's some things happening in my life right now. I might need to take some time off from work. Or ask yourself, do you take your vacation? Why? What you saving it up for? Take some time off from. And this is not to say that a trip to Barbados is going to fix everything. But sometimes you need a break, right? A vacation is not going to fix burnout. A change of your circumstances is going to address burnout, right? But sometimes you need to ask yourself, can I take mental health days? Can I take my vacation? And if those things are not available to you, go to your doctor and ask for time off from work. If time off is not the thing, because you might come back and get more issues with work, then you might ask yourself the question that many people don't want to ask themselves. Do I need to start looking for something else? Right? And then you hear, well, I've been here for 15 years. Yes, you've been here for 15 years.
Now,
yes.
Tonight.
Tonight. Nobody's saying you need to quit in a flurry right now.
But
plan. Exactly. Start planning your exit. And let me tell you, once you have that exit plan in place, your days won't feel so stressful because you know that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Right? But you only have one life to live. Take care of yourself.
Yeah. It's funny when you were saying all that whole vacation thing, because I used to not take my vacation and I'll be next year to add on. And then that year came and I still didn't take it. Eventually I would take it because they'll force you.
Yes.
But yeah, like, why was I doing that?
You know what I say to people all the time when people say, I don't want to take a sick day or I don't want to take vacation? I would say to them, you think your compensation is just the dollars in your pocket? Your vacation is a part of your compensation package. Your sick time is a part of your compensation package. And if you don't take it for the sake of being team player, that's like saying, oh, I don't want an extra 10 grand this year. You can keep that. Have you ever said that to your boss?
Roxanne, man.
I'm just spitting facts.
No, I would never do that.
Exactly. So this is a part of your compensation. Do you ever say to them, oh, I don't want those benefits. You can keep that. I don't need prescription coverage. You can keep that. You don't say that. Your vacation is a part of your compensation package. They might not treat you well, but they want you to be well so you can come to work. So they give you vacation. Take your vacation.
Oh. It is part of your compensation.
That's right.
Well, why didn't you tell me that before? This is stuff I needed to hear before.
You never asked me before.
But wow. Okay. So yeah, those are some realistic ways, or some ways that you can identify what's going on, and some actions, like actionable.
Another thing that I will say, sorry to interrupt you, I just thought of it, is if your job has opportunities for secondment, right? Yeah. Use those, ask for those. If you can participate in a project that takes you off-site 2 days a week, do that. It creates space. It relieves some of the pressure, right? So try to look around. And then for people who have been there for like 30 years, you pull them aside and say, how have you survived this? What is your secret? And if they say, well, I do these things, then you pick up on some of those. And if they say, boy, I don't know, I'm just waiting for retirement, that's not the answer. That's not helpful.
No, that's not what you want to hear.
That's not what you want to hear. Yeah.
Wow. So, wow. So tell me, in your opinion, what is truly a positive or supportive work environment? What should it look like?
That's a good
Pie
question.
in the sky.
Pie in the sky.
What does that look like? We still have to get our job done. We still have to make money. But how can we do that and still show, as far as I'm concerned, compassion, care, support to not just only staff, management, even sometimes the vice president, the
Yes.
president, they may be ill-treating themselves
Yes.
and on the brink of some type of burnout or breakdown. What does that look like?
A healthy workplace is a workplace that has healthy leaders, right? And what that means is actually, I talk a lot about psychological safety at work. And yeah, just feeling like it's okay to bring up a new idea or share things that are outside of the box or
Hmm
your sighs
That
and
could
smiles are
because
killing
that could be
me.
so frightening for some people.
But it's helpful. It's helpful for people at work, the employees, to know that it's okay to bring this up in a meeting and no one's going to take my head off, right? To share what's going on with me, maybe even personally. You don't have to say that my partner and I had a big fight this morning, but as a manager, if you can come in and say to someone who just had a puppy, who just got a new puppy, how's that going? I hear that new puppies are awful when it comes, they're like newborn babies. How are you managing? Like, just check in with people. A little bit of banter. If you know someone's child is not doing well, follow up, check in, see how things are going. When someone has just come back from maternity leave, ask them, pull them aside. Are you functioning away from your baby? Right? Do you have to leave half an hour early? It's your first day back from work. Like, you don't have to stay all day. I know you're here worrying about your child. Like, these are some things people need to know, that they feel valued, seen, cared for, and that there's opportunity for advancement. That's it. That's it.
It, it sounds so simple. And when I say simple, I mean it is being human.
Thank you.
It's just being human.
Thank you.
And I don't know, not trying to get big or deep right there. Like, I don't know how we've gotten to a place where we just can't be human.
Capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Dollar.
The dollar.
And listen, nobody's in business to not make
make
money.
Right. Yeah.
Right? We're all trying to make a dollar here. But there are humane ways that you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
There are humane ways that you can do that. When people are, when upper managers, CEOs, VPs, when they're hiring directors and managers, these are some of the conversations that they need to be having. These are the conversations that then, how are you treating people? And pay attention to those references. Pay attention to those references. It can't just be, people bring me in all the time to train the leaders on like psychological safety and bias in the workplace and all those things. And my question is, what happened at the hiring process that these people need training on this?
Oh, you need to come on Devon and my podcast, because we're talking about leadership, and this is so vital and so important, and something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, how are you, like, what are the criteria of these individuals that you're hiring?
Yeah.
So who's doing the hiring? What's
exactly.
What's your organization's
Come in
philosophy
HR.
on that?
Let's have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, Roxanne.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak more.
I would be happy to.
But I know time is running. And before we end, I definitely want you to share your social information. I'll put it up as well.
Yes.
But I want you to share your social information, your email, IG, where we can connect with you.
Yes.
Because, and I'm not just saying this because I know you. I hear it in the community, the impact that you're having with other individuals working in social work and psychotherapy, and the impact that you're having, and just your love for people. That is so obvious and clear. And I knew that from before, but I even know it now in terms of what you've been doing. And I'm so happy to see that you're doing what you love and you're making such a great impact.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you a lot. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful for your encouragement over the years. In our first iteration of us knowing each other.
Yes.
It was very, very supportive and helpful to me. I love people. I love the work that I do. But for sake of time, I will tell you all of my details so people can find me. Our website is francispsychotherapy.com. And you can find me on social media at Francis Psychotherapy. You can catch me on LinkedIn. Just type in Roxanne Francis. I'm all over the place and all over the place. And if people are looking for therapy, you can just email us, hello@Francis Psychotherapy. You can reach out for a consult call. We have a whole team of psychotherapists who work and think in the very same way that I do, or quite similarly, and we would be happy to support you.
Great, that's excellent. And we're going to have the name and all that information on the screen, so everybody that may not have been able to capture it fast enough, they'll have it. So, so this ends our session, our first session.
Yes.
I hope there's more, and I appreciate you being here and dropping your science, dropping a lot of valuable information. As we were talking, I was just contemplating some of the things you say and just reflecting on my own stress in life and how I manage being in an environment sometimes that can be toxic. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So thanks everybody for tuning in and listening, and until the next time, have a great day.